Hey everybody, welcome back to Board Game Blunder episode 3. Today we are talking Downtime. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but I actually organized my games here behind me by the amount of downtime. All the way over there from simultaneous play games to all the way on this side of the room where I actually keep a bed in case you need to take a nap while you wait for someone to finish. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. You know what? I think we're not going to take a lot of downtime with this intro, and we're just going to get right to the good stuff. Enjoy, folks.
Hi, everybody. I hate downtime in games. I mean, hate it. I think it's because I get bored pretty easily. But I suspect downtime means different things to different people, and everybody has their pet peeves when it comes to board games. For me, I don't mind if there's some time in between my turns as long as my brain has something to work on in between plays. Now, some games solve downtime by having simultaneous play. And some games solve it by giving you really quick turns. Some games solve it by being cooperative, trying to keep you engaged the whole time. And other games solve it by giving you lots to think about and plan in between turns.
Yay!
And some games don't solve it at all, resulting in this. And yeah, I know I'm probably going to get some comments about that. Sorry. Today, I wanted to highlight a game that gives you a nice Euro experience, but with a light lunch feel. For me, Glass Road is a go-to game when I want a satisfying board game, but don't have a ton of time, or even other people to play with. Lighter than Uwe Rosenberg's Euro masterpieces Agricola and Le Havre, Glass Road has players vying for victory points by purchasing buildings. I know that sounds like a bit of a snore, but Glass Road offers two things that push it into the favorites category for me. One, you manage resources through a clever rondel mechanism. On your resource dial, you track your resources by using markers, but as your resource count shifts, a gap on the dial is created, and you must rotate the arms, thereby adding a hard-to-get resource, but reducing the number of other resources you currently have. Additionally, a couple of resources are on both dials, helping or making more complex how you manage your goods. 2, everyone has identical personal decks of cards that provide two actions. Players select 5 cards for their hand, and if someone plays a card you selected for your hand, guess what? You get to reveal and play your card to gain an action. Or if you're the only person that gets to reveal a card, you can take both benefits instead of selecting just one. The fact that you can get an action during your opponent's turn really keeps you engaged, especially since you have to pay attention to how your opponents are building up their area to kind of guess at what they might select for their hand. And because buildings are randomized from a fairly sizable set of options, if you end up waiting for others a bit, you have plenty to think about between assessing the available buildings and figuring out the give and take of that rondel to get the resources you need. And hey, for the ultimate no downtime, just eliminate the other players entirely. Because Glass Road, like a lot of other UE games, has a solo mode. Yeah, you're going to lose a little bit of the fun without the what are they going to play element, but the resource calculation and rule prioritization is still there, and it's always fun to try to beat your previous high score. Yeah! And remember, there's no downtime when you're the only player. See you next time.
Hi there, it's MAGGIBOT here for Board Game Blender, and today is all about, well, downtime. Downtime in board games can be really awful and can ruin your experience with your friends and can make you feel like you've wasted a couple of hours of your evening. Or downtime can be an exciting, involved process by which your brain has to function on many different levels and consider lots of different strategies and try and figure out the best possible thing that they can possibly do by the next time they have a turn. And so really what we're looking for here is to tell developers and designers that if you're making a tactics board game, we want that for 2 players. Tactics board games are important because they're fabulous and wonderful, and I love a good abstract game. Something like Five Tribes should never have been 4 players. This is a game where your entire board state resets every single turn, and your thought process for what you'd like to do on a round starts on second one of your own turn. And then you get into games that are engine builders like Agricola, Terra Mystica, Russian Railroads, where what you would like to do is pretty obvious. I would like to build that dwelling because dwellings are a bonus and I have 2 extra points every time I build one. But where am I going to build that dwelling? Am I going to build it over by Joe, who needs 1 power to get to this action, or am I going to build it by Mary, who kind of overspent this round and doesn't really care about extra power? So I'm going to build by Mary, and then I have to decide, oh, but I got 2 power from Joe on my turn, so maybe I take the shovel from him real quick, and then I worry about my dwelling on my next turn. And strategic board games allow you to have at least a goal in mind, and then tactically to make decisions about how to get to that goal. So you need a balance of the two to really effectively use downtime. The last type of downtime you'll see, and you'll see this more and more with Kickstarters, though I don't think they're balancing it as effectively as some of the more traditional games, is the piggyback method. The eminent domains, the glory to realms of the world allow you to take an action, but then you're basically giving that action to every other player, so you have to be very careful that you get your stuff without giving them too much as well. And so it's sort of tactics-based, but it's more about a balance of giving and taking and seeing how that can work in a multiplayer dynamic. It's really important that you don't give up the win, and that's the best part, is that you can only blame yourself, which is what we're all looking for.
Hey everyone, it's Editing Desk Maggie, and the end of my video got kind of garbled, so thank you for tuning in for Board Game Blender. I hope to see you in a couple weeks, and if you'd like to see more from me, follow me on Twitter or Facebook at MAGGIBOT. Thanks.
Recently, the Dice Tower crew attended the Gamma Trade Show, a wonderful event with store owners and game publishers, which happens inexplicably in the middle of the desert. This is a city known for taking up all of America's downtime. Today, board games meet Las Vegas. If you want to keep things light and simple, I recommend Las Vegas the Dice Game. Push your luck, keep grabbing those big scoring cards, and keep your real money safely in your pocket. How about you want to build your own casino? In that case, I recommend Vegas Showdown. Build it yourself from the ground up, keep your customers happy, and make sure every hallway is nice and twisty. How about you want to run the whole shebang? Well, in that case, Lords of Vegas is your baby. Run part of the strip yourself, compete with the other owners, and you can even do a little gambling on the side. If you want to step up your Vegas game, this is the one to do it with. How about you're not interested in the Vegas theme, you just want to take care of the activities that happen there? Well, if you want to simulate some of that, I recommend you take a look at this one right here, Morels. You'll feel like you're lost in this weird forest setting. You'll need a walking stick after a few hours, and everything you encounter seems to have way too much butter on it. So there you have it. Board games meet ... Las Vegas. If you have some downtime, maybe you'll want to check it out too. Come on, Papa needs a new microphone.
Okay, so my final thing I'm going to do, there we go. What? Yes, no, there is a legitimate reason to play an Outsider 3 card. Play your turn, okay? I promise this will work out. There's a reason for this, okay? Hey, friends of the blend, Baker here from Board Online, Board Offline, and today we're talking about downtime on Board Game Blender. And, you know, Dead of Winter is a game that a lot of people feel has too much downtime. Personally, I enjoy the game exactly the way it is. However, there's a lot of people that feel that there is too much downtime in this game, so it must be a legitimate concern. So what are some things that cause downtime in a game like this? One of them is going to be AP, analysis paralysis. If you're the type of player who's going to take 5 minutes per action dice in Dead of Winter to make a decision, then you're going to be causing the other players to have a ton of downtime. And this really is something that can be mitigated by you planning out your turn ahead of time. But, you know, don't just sit there and do nothing, or worse yet, don't just sit there and do other things like talking when it's not your turn about things that are completely unrelated to the game. Or when it is your turn, talking about things that are completely unrelated to the game. That's even worse. On top of that, you know, if you're texting during the game, if you're answering emails, if you're taking phone calls during the game, all these things are going to add to downtime. I'm sorry, 1 second. It's not my turn in Dead of Winter, so during the downtime, I've got a side game over here that I'm going to get a quick game in real quick of Twilight Imperium 3. So, 1 second. All right, no, listen here. My 2 war sons are going to bombard your planet from orbit. Yeah, so what do you have to say about that? All right, deal with that. The downtime in Dead of Winter is not so bad to me. However, since there are so many people that are concerned about it, I thought maybe I should introduce a variant that has been very popular on Board Game Geek. You can find this variant on Board Game Geek in the Dead of Winter forums. It's titled Mini Turns, a simple cure for downtime. On each of your turns, you're allowed to use 1 action die and as many free actions as you like. Because of this, Vote to Exile is no longer a free action. Instead, it's been moved into its own phase. Sure you want to do that? Okay, well, I'm going to activate the Metacall Rex system and move my fleets into attack. So with this variant, like I said, all players are doing their turns at the same time, so everyone is going to draw a crossroad card at the same time. Since everyone is going around the board and taking multiple turns, it's going to be much more difficult to track which survivors have already moved. I'll take the first hit on, my last fighter right there. And the second hit on my Dreadnought using sustained damage. Exactly. So finally, with cards that have once per round actions, you're going to need to tap those cards. That's right. I said tap the cards. Wizards of the Coast. I don't care if you've got it trademarked. Tapping is still a word I can use. So you'll have to tap those cards so that you remember that they've been used. Otherwise, it's going to be way too difficult to keep track of. So go check out the thread on BGG and let me know what you think in the comments below. And remember, until next time, if you're bored online, bored offline. That was a close one. Good game, guys. Good game. All right, is it my turn yet, guys? One more player.
Hi, welcome back to Real Talk with Sam. You know, I've been thinking about what happened last episode, and you know what? Some of you may have been right. That just really wasn't the time or place to have my own go. That was wrong of me, and I sincerely apologize. So, this week I decided that I was going to play along with everybody else and actually talk about downtime. And as I was musing over what I should do, I began to think maybe I could take some inspiration from some of my fellow contributors. And so, now let's see, I could talk about downtime. Downtime is a perfect time for a cup of tea. As you might imagine, we have a lot of downtime in a war zone with foxholes and whatnot, but ironically, I don't have time to talk about it right now. Okay, we're going to talk about downtime. Is that okay, Bruce? Thanks a lot, Bruce. Thanks for the help. As I was thinking about what I was going to say on my piece on downtime this week, I began to think, was I maybe a little bit too over-analytical about zombies? Oh, yeah. Hi, I have the perfect app for downtime. Let me show you. Board game downtime. ... After all of that, trying to be somebody that I'm not, I actually figured out, you know what? I'm just going to try to make something up and hope that you like it, realizing that you probably won't, and you're probably going to give me a hard time for it anyway. So, downtime. There's 3 kinds of downtime, I think. First of all, there's perceived downtime, and that's when you look at a game and the game is so grandiose, it's so epic that you figure there must be a whole lot of downtime in that. And sometimes you're probably right. Other times the downtime is there because you need it to be there. You need to watch what other people are doing. You need to see what they're doing and try to devise what their plan might be. Then there's the second kind of downtime, the kind of downtime that I really do not like, and that is called true downtime. That's when the mechanics of the game or the way the game plays fosters this downtime, and it's like, man, the guy has just explored the entire universe, and now it's my turn, and I have to roll a 10-sided die, and I die. That's bad downtime. And then there's a third kind of downtime. The third kind of downtime is what I would call fallacious downtime, and that's downtime that really actually shouldn't be there, but it's there because some of the players, or maybe even just one of the players, is having a difficult time, whether it's staying away from their phone or talking to people that are coming and interrupting the game. Some kind of board game faux pas has taken place, and it has made downtime occur. That's fallacious downtime, and that's really not cool either. Thank you for watching Real Talk with Sam, and hey y'all, I'm just trying to keep it real.
Hey guys, Tiff here, and this week we're talking about downtime. One thing I discovered when I started my middle school board game club is that games with little or no downtime tend to go over better than games with more. If I had to guess, I'd say that this is because kids, at least where I teach, fill every unstructured moment with screen time, and they're not quite sure what to do when they can't get out their phones. In fact, we had to have a phone etiquette discussion rather early on after the club's inception, but that's a whole different story. If your kids have difficulty with downtime, you have a few options. You can introduce games with simultaneous or real-time mechanisms that virtually eliminate downtime. You can seek out games that involve all of the players even when it's not their turn, or you can use games with downtime to teach kids how to effectively plan out their strategies in advance. It all depends on your goals and the types of games that your young players are interested in. Since my group is fairly new, we gravitate towards fast-paced games that require focus, and that's what I'm going to show you today. Fun Farm is just one of a whole genre of pattern recognition dexterity games that seem to stir up raucous fun in just about any age group. This one goes over great with the kids in part because of the toy factor. The components include a deck of animal cards, 2 color spot dice, and 6 adorable squeeze ball farm animals. You arrange the animals in a circle, flip one card to the center, then roll the dice. The object is to quickly grab any animal that has a matching dice face on its card before the rest of the players. If there are no matches, another card is added and the dice are rolled again. If you grab a match, you get the corresponding card as a point for endgame scoring. What makes Fun Farm extra fun is that there is the potential to grab multiple animals in one turn, which can lead to a lot of laughs and get a little physical. You're going to want to make sure your kids have neatly trimmed fingernails for this one. Fun Farm's predecessor, Ghost Blitz, is a similar game that doesn't use dice and only has one card out at a time. The twist is that you're not always trying to grab an exact match of what's depicted on the card. Ghost Blitz is also available as a really well-implemented iOS app, which could be an easy way to have kids learn the rules or get in some practice if they can't play in person. Both games are great because they force kids to keep their eyes glued on the game, leaving absolutely no time for checking text or Instagram. As an added bonus, both also have pretty high player counts, up to 10 or 8 respectively. The more players, the more zany it gets. Next up is Escape, the Curse of the Temple, and it is the very definition of zero downtime. The gameplay happens simultaneously during a 10-minute period timed by a very spooky soundtrack. The premise is that you're all Indiana Jones-esque adventurers exploring a temple, discovering gems, and trying to escape before the walls crumble down on top of you. You do this by frantically rolling dice, trying to get the correct symbols to lay room tiles, move through rooms, ward off curses, and place the gems, while at the same time trying not to lock all of your dice with the dreaded black mask symbol. This game plays up to 5 players, or 6 with the highly recommended Illusions expansion, and it is completely cooperative. By teaming up in a room, you can discover larger quantities of gems, and the more gems you have, the easier it is to escape. Working together and communicating effectively is intrinsic to the game, not to mention a skill set most teenagers need to work at. The game can get super intense because at various times you all have to rush back to the starting tile, or suffer the crushing penalty of losing a die for the rest of the game. This kind of intensity might be a little overwhelming for some kids, but I find that it's generally well received. Here is one of my students reacting after his first play.
It's really intense. I mean, it's not too intense, but you can still play it whenever you want to. And it's a quick game. It doesn't take the whole time to play.
As you just heard, games with quick pacing and little downtime can be a great jumping off point for a young board game club. These types of lively games encourage excitement, create memories, and draw a crowd, which is exactly what you want when you're starting off. Most of my students were completely unaware that these types of games exist, and it's been a real treat to watch them discover that board games can be just as, or even more exciting than the digital games that they're familiar with. I hope it got you excited about gaming with kids, and I'll see you back next time.
Hey everybody, today's designer spotlight is on one of my favorite designers of all time, Vlada Chvátil, or Vlada Chvátil. I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but there's an accent on the A. He designed one of my favorite games that we're looking at right here, Through the Ages. It is one of the best games. I know it's rated high on Board Game Geek, but in my personal collection, this is also rated really high. Of course, since we're talking about downtime, this is a game which has a lot of downtime. Basically, if you're playing it 4 players, I take my turn, then I have to wait for him to take his turn, the next guy to take his turn, the next guy to take his turn. So you're talking about a lot of downtime before you get back to your turn, and you can't really do much because of the way the cards go along the age cards. So you're sitting there with a lot of downtime. But Vlada also, on the other hand, has made games that have no downtime. We're talking Galaxy Trucker, where you're simultaneously picking pieces, putting them on your ship, picking them up, putting them on your ship, putting them down, and then you get to race your ship. We're also talking about Space Alert, where you're cooperatively working together during a 30-minute game. So on the one hand, Vlada has had some games such as this, which are amazing, which have a lot of downtime, but he's also taken it to the other extreme with Galaxy Trucker and Space Alert, which are also amazing games, but with no downtime. So if you're looking for games that have downtime, Vlada. If you're looking for games that have no downtime, Vlada as well. Anyway, that's what I have to say for this week's Designer Spotlight.
Hey, for today's Quirky Game, we are taking a look at Cyrano, a game put out by Repos Productions, in which you are attempting to write the most wonderful of poesy in order to woo the lovely lady that sits atop this tower here. Yes, it's always a lady, so if you're playing with women, they have to be wooing a lady. That's okay. I'm going to show you how this works, and the reason I picked it is because it is a very strange game. It's a really quirky game in which you are writing and then reading and then voting on people's pieces of writing. But the game has an immense amount of downtime in which everybody's just sitting there writing and then you read and have a couple laughs. But really there's a lot of waiting around. The way it works is you have this piece of board here which you're going to set up on the table in like an easel type setup. Then you are going to take these cards here, and you are going to pick 3. They come in different languages, by the way, depending on which color here you pick. And so we're going to take English, which is white, the white parts of the cards. We're going to shuffle these up. We're going to pick 3, and you're going to stick 1, which is going to give you a topic. And so a drink is the topic. We're going to put that one there like so, and it says it there, right there, a drink. And then we're going to pick 2 rhyming couplets. And we're going to have this one and this one. And they will be at. And they give you a couple of examples, like flat and brat. And then over here we have, stick this one in like this. Eam, like deem or seam. And then what I do is I take a pencil. And I'm gonna take a piece of paper from a really cool pad, which looks like this. And the pad, as you can see, gives you plenty of space for your wonderful writing, and then it shows you here on the side you'll be marking off how far up the tower you've climbed and how far she has run down to meet you, oh lover. And I'm gonna do this right now. There it is. I'm looking at and deem. I can do ABAB or I can do AABB. A drink. Here we go. Alright, so there it is. I have finished. As you can see, that took a serious amount of time. Of course, this was my first one, and I did not warm up for this one. And as you play, you do get better. You know, you kind of warm up into it, so they come a little easier. But the first one, and even if you play with some folks that are a little bit slower with coming up with silly quips and what have you, the game will have an immense amount of downtime, which I feel really pushes it out of that party category that you want to bring to a friends get together and throw down. I've enjoyed this game with friends, and I do like the game still in my collection, though that's wavering a little bit. But the game is simply too slow. It's such a slow game. Everybody sits there writing. It's very quiet. There's no laughter. Yeah, you might giggle as you come up with something clever, but no one knows what you're laughing at. So I'm not sure I would recommend it if you want a party game. If you want a weird game, something that's really different, and you have, say, friends who like poetry, who are into writing, who can be silly with their writing, then maybe. But be aware the game has tons of downtime. I don't know. I don't think I'd vote for me. Would you vote for me? I'm gonna give you a close-up. I felt alone, and at home I sat, waiting for the siren of my true dream. But boredom took over, and at my friend's flat, absinthe did flow, and livers did scream.
Welcome to Retro Board Game Corner. Hopefully you've been enjoying this episode of Board Game Blender. Today we've been talking about downtime in games. I don't know a person in the world who enjoys downtime at all. I know that I don't, just for one simple fact is that I don't have much time to play these games. My time is taken up between work, my family, everything gets kind of hectic. Just like the other day. So as you can see, sometimes I really don't have that much time to invest in a board game. Even though I would like to have the time, sometimes I need something that's just really quick. Also with downtime, when I'm playing with certain people, if there's too much downtime, which is one of my pet peeves, is people start bringing out their phones and looking at their phones when it's not their turn. That really irks me really bad. I've got two games here that has zero downtime because everybody's playing at the same time. They are Slapstick and Rubik's Race. Rubik's Race, published in 1982 by Ideal Corporation. This game came out about the same time as the Rubik's Cube did. It is a two-player game and very fast to play. Okay, to start the game, you're going to take this cube right here, flip it upside down, give it a couple good shakes. Make sure everything falls into place. Cover it with your hand. On the count of 3, you're going to try to make the design, a 3x3 design right in the middle of the board. 1, 2, 3, go. And that is the design exactly like that. Game is over. Really fast, really easy. Slapstick, published by Milton Bradley in 1967. This is a 2 to 4 player dexterity game that plays really fast. Let me show you. So this is what the game would look like set up. The first player is going to call out a random number, 1 through 7, and a colored peg, whether it be red, blue, green, or gold. So let's say, for example, I'm the first player. I will call out 2 red. Now everybody is going to attempt, without their hands and just your spatulas, to try to put the number 2 card of their own color on the peg that was just called. So for example, I got that first. So then I would call a different number and a different colored peg. So let's say 4 blue. So I will try to put the 4 on the peg. Now it is legal to slap the cards away from other players, but if the card lands off of the mat, they are out of that round. So let's say that the blue player has got that number 4 on there. So then the blue player would call out another number and a different colored peg. And this would go on until you get rid of all your 7 cards. The stop cards are used to stop the action of the game. Let's say that you don't like what's going on, so you can put the stop card on the colored peg that was called, and that'll stop the action, and then whoever played the stop card gets to call out another number and a different colored peg. The game is over when all 7 cards are on the peg. As you can see, these are really quick, great little games even a non-gamer can enjoy. I really do enjoy themes in games, but sometimes when I'm having days like this, I like to whip one of these out and play it really fast and really easy, and that way it doesn't take up too much of my time. And then maybe someday I can also play 8 hours of Twilight Imperium. So yeah, Downtime sucks. I hate it, and like I said, I don't know one person that does like it. This was Retro Board Game Corner. May your rolls be high. See you next time.
Hi everyone, I'm Justin from Grizzly Gaming, and this is Two Player Palace. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about Downtime, why we like it, why we hate it, and how to best minimize it if possible. Now, one of my favorite games from 2014 was the game Splendor. It had, when it came out, I had instantly fallen in love with it from its quick gameplay and its upbeat tempo, and the fact that it also had poker chips involved in the game. Not many games I know have poker chips involved as their main component. Now, when playing the game of Splendor, you have 4 different actions. You can reserve a card, you can pick up chips of 2 different styles, either 3 chips of different colors or 2 of the same, or you can purchase a card. Of these 4 actions, 2 of them are fairly quick. The reserving of a card and playing of a card are the 2 faster actions. The other 2 actions, getting chips of both types or choosing a card, are the options that take the longest. And when you're playing with someone, depending on their strategy, a lot of times their strategy will force them to take longer on their turn. If they tend to hoard more chips or are going for more card play usage from lower cards versus higher point cards, then you know that they'll be taking longer on their turns because they're having a longer time to decide what they're going to do. Which leads into my next thing, strategizing. When strategizing for Splendor for 2 people, you have quick turns. That just basis of how it goes about it. When you have spent some time figuring out what your main strategy for the game is going to be, and then you try to execute it, there isn't much change to the game board itself. Very few cards will be flipped over. The only thing that'll change a whole lot is the chips, but because there's only one other person, a lot of times you'll get the chips that you need and that you want for that specific turn. Because of this, you don't have to worry so much of taking longer later on in the game. It's only early on in the game itself that you take a longer amount of time to just figure out what you're going to be doing for those first few turns. After that, your turns go very quickly and there's very little downtime between yourself and the other player. So this is one of the main things I really liked about the game, was because of its upbeat tempo and its faster pace, and it just only gets faster from that from the get-go, that I really enjoyed the game, and that I really think that this has very little downtime, if any at all, besides the other person just taking their turn and doing their actions. So, if you happen to enjoy the show, or you have any questions or comments for me, please let me know. You can find me on BoardGameGeek.com under the username Grizzly Archer. So.
Hello folks, welcome to Corner Chat. I am Mark, and...
My name's Emerson Matsuchi with NASCAR Games.
My name is Eric Lang, I make games.
I'm James Ernest from Cheap Ass Games.
Nice. Great guys to have with us today. So, guys, we're talking about downtime in games. What kind of... what do you use, and what challenges do you face when dealing with downtime, keeping players engaged?
Well, as a designer, one of our goals is to really just reduce the amount of downtime, because usually there's a correlation between downtime and player engagement. So personally, I actively try to reduce it as much as possible.
I too am against downtime. No, I actually think
that means I have to be pro.
My opinion on downtime has actually evolved a little bit over the last couple of years. I treat, I'll just call it lack of engagement, which I treat it as a resource for a game. So I don't, games with too much downtime, obviously bad, but I actually think that games with like constant, unending engagement are also a little bit stressful. So I actually try to treat it like a graph: rising, falling tension, rising, falling downtime. So I actually try to bake a little bit of downtime when possible into a game, just to let players relax, especially if the game is particularly intense, competitive, or timed.
I was at a convention in Seattle years ago, and we were playing Captain Park's Imaginary Polar Expedition, and someone was watching the game, and she said after a while, this game seems to have a lot of downtime. And I said, well, it's not really as bad as you think. She said, do you want to join us? We're going to play again. She said, no, I'm in a game of Titan right now. But in redesigning that game, as it's now called Stuff and Nonsense, one of the ways we reduced the downtime was basically just make the turns a lot simpler. You give each player less to do, give them a tiny little slice of a turn, and that means that they still have as much downtime proportionally, but the length of each block is a lot shorter.
Oh, good. Okay.
One of the things I do for when we design the game and we analyze the player's turn, what they do on their turn, is how granular can we get to where, when instead of having one player take, say, 6 actions, can we give the same, like, what are the gameplay ramifications if we made it like we just give them 1 or 2 actions? That way it'll pass on, like, what do we lose by doing this?
And it's the middle of the downtime that's the worst, because you've already kind of made the decision of what you're going to do next. So essentially, I said it's proportionally the same, but really you do have a little thinking to do when it's not your turn. If you just have enough time to do that, the downtime is now 0.
Now 0, right. Well then, so how do you engage like newer players who aren't used to downtime? What are some of your things that you look for, or like when you're teaching a game, you're trying to help out very brand new players,
Well, casual players like storytelling. I mean, all good players should like storytelling, but I mean, we're talking about, you say, new players.
Yeah.
There's a game I do called Witch Trial that is really a lot of storytelling, and when 2 people go to court, everyone else is just watching. But we find that to be very entertaining if the people who are, doing the trial against each other are doing it right. Everyone's just watching and having a good time doing it.
Great. I'm actually doing a game right now with Bruno Duty, which is a team game where you played this morning, actually.
It was
you can play up to 9 players, and everybody takes 1 turn passing a card to anybody else, which means that at that point everybody else is not doing anything. But the engagement level is extremely high because, of course, it's a game about hidden teams. So every single player is equally engaged, and sometimes even more engaged than the person passing the card, because the game is about other people table talking or heckling the person making the choice.
Right. Social games are really good in that the players are always watching each other. So as long as there's some kind of a spectator portion to the game, like dexterity games are great. There's a lot of downtime in a dexterity game, but you're spectating, and so they're engaged in those type of games. So.
Cool. Well, okay. So tell us, what are some of your favorite games that do combat, that do really well in these areas?
Well, Eric and I have both done real-time games, so there's no downtime at all in those. Everyone's all going all at once. So that's Falling and Brawl and Frenzy and
XCOM is actually one of my favorites for that. It's pure stress.
Right, pure stress all the way through.
Actually, it's pure stress that actually I built more downtime specifically into that game during the dice rolling portion because it relieves players after a while. And gives them a chance to mop their brow.
Right.
Exactly. All right, so tell us what's next for you guys.
This is the year of the reprint for me. We've gotten Cheap Ass Games has been pulling all of its better licenses back from other publishers. So we got Lord of the Fries and Give Me the Brain back from Steve Jackson Games last year.
Cool.
We've got Kill Dr. Lucky back from Paizo this year. So our big games this year are Lord of the Fries, and we're kickstarting Kill Dr. Lucky in October, a 20th anniversary edition with upgraded rules and all new art, and in the style of the card game Get Lucky.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I got more big box epic games coming up. We just finished a Kickstarter for Blood Rage, the Viking game, which
awesome.
It finished very well. That's coming out this year. We'll be doing another big box horror game called The Others. That's coming at they'll probably be kickstarting in June, July-ish.
Okay.
Hopefully ready to show at Gen Con.
Oh, awesome.
And then for me, I have Spectre Ops, which will be coming out and hopefully hitting retails within the next month. So it's our stealth. We're really proud. It's our stealth action board game. So
awesome.
Yeah,
very excited.
It satisfies my Metal Gear Solid fanboyism.
The action's so stealth. You're doing it now. We don't notice.
Exactly.
I'm not here.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to all that. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
and to you folks, thanks for joining us. So until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Guns.
Guns? I did the pointing. I didn't do the gun.
That was awesome.
Thank you so much.
That was so good.
Hey, for Under the Radar today, we are taking a look at Madame Ching. Madame Ching is a big box game, as you can tell, with gorgeous artwork, as you can tell. And the game really has flown quite under the radar, and I think I know why. The game's a very recent game, put out by Hurricane Games, as you can see here, and it's a Bruno Catala design, and Ludovic Maublanc, they co-designed it. And I think the reason this game is not getting as much love as I would suspect it would is, well, there's a few reasons. One, the game comes in this really big box. It's, regular standard Ticket to Ride size box, but it's basically a card game. The game could have been done more cheaply and smaller without having such a stunning board, without having such a grand design. The game itself, the design itself, is really quite simple, and it's basically just a card game with a couple of a couple of ways to spice up the whole thing. Secondly, I think the fact that Bruno Catala had such a spectacular year, the year this game came out last year, helped bury this one under the weight of such wonderful designs as Five Tribes, as Abyss, things like that. And so while this game seems very cool, looks very good, people open it, people play it, and then realize, wait, this is just a card game. Let me go play something that warrants a box this size. Now, granted, the game is not the best game ever. It's a little repetitive. It's a little simplistic, but I think it's a great game. Has almost no downtime. You are going to take a card, play a card, take a card, play a card. It goes quite quick. In fact, the card you pick is simultaneous, and you flip and reveal them all in turn order, in numerical order rather. And so it's quite quick. The game moves at a nice clip. It's though you are doing the same thing over and over somewhat, but it really works well. I'm a fan of it. If you like Bruno Catala's designs, as I'm sure you know or don't know, I really do, then I would recommend you check this one out. Madame Ching seems to be really flying under the radar, and I think that should be corrected. So show this game some love. Give it a try if you're not sure. Find someone who owns the game and try their copy if you're not certain you're going to like it. It is pricey for the amount of game you get in the box. But a worthy game, I think, and one that maybe you should play. Madame Ching. That's our show, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your support. As always, a big thank you to my contributors. And I hope to catch you again in 2 weeks, where we'll be talking about Cover Story. Covers on games. how they can be useful, how they can be deceiving, and we'll even show you some really ugly covers with great games behind them. Have a great week, and as always, stay a friend of the blend. See ya.